The original Half-Life was one of the industry-defining video games of the 1990s. First releasing on November 19, 1998 for PC, it followed in the footsteps of two of the most well-known shooters ever, Quake in June 1996 and the classic Doom in December 1993. Developed by Valve and headed by industry legend Gabe Newell, Half-Life used a modified version of the Quake engine dubbed Gold Source. Even to this day, it's revered as one of the best shooters ever made and is essential in any PC gamer's collection. It went on to get a sequel on November 16, 2004, receiving even higher praise than the original, thanks in part to its new physics engine called Source. The story continued in Half-Life 2 Episode 1 and 2, and the follow-up to this, Half-Life 3, appears to be trapped between the fabric of reality, as after 14 years since Half-Life 2, it hasn't received even so much as an official announcement that the game's even in development.
Is there any way we can have any news on Half-Life 3?
No, we don't have anything to say.
There is.
It's
ready
when it's ready.
The series has received dozens of mods over the years, spanning new franchises such as the multiplayer juggernaut Counter-Strike, which was officially released by Valve itself after becoming hugely popular. Some fans, however, wanted to experience the original Half-Life like new again, and on the 14th of September 2012, developers The Crowbar Collective released Black Mesa, a remake of the original Half-Life using an updated Half-Life 2 Source engine. Not just content with better graphics, the team completely overhauled the level design and physics, designing new areas, enemies, and animations. An updated release was even officially supported by Valve and released on Steam on May 5th, 2015. I played through some of the original Half-Life when I was a kid, but I was more into Counter-Strike. However, recently I played through the entirety of Black Mesa, and if the original is even half as good as this version, then there is no wonder why the game is still so popular to this day. This is why you should play Half-Life Black Mesa. Now, to make it clear, I have never actually played through the entirety of the original Half-Life, so this video is entirely based on my experience with Black Mesa as its own game, not as a remake. I understand that the game houses entirely new areas and set pieces over the original, but I don't know where they are or what the difference is to the original. Just a heads up as well, there is some potential spoilers ahead. With that out of the way, let's get started. Black Mesa starts as any high-octane, pulse-pounding game does, with probably the most boring opening in a video game I think I've ever played. You spend literally the first 15 to 20 minutes sitting in a slow-moving rail car, travelling through the institute that you will spend the next 10 to 15 hours trying to get through, watching the opening credits. Literally, nothing happens. You stand in a small box, waiting. Now, you'd think this was to load the opening area of the game or something, but no! It even has its own loading screens with this opening. It's probably the dullest opening to a game I can think of. But thankfully, the rest of the game doesn't continue this trend. After the long opening, followed by, let's face it, a walking simulator section, you get the OG Spartan armor, the HEV. Capable of providing armor, faster movement, protection against radiation, and providing toilet paper.
Thank heavens.
Definitely the most useful feature. You go into some sort of test chamber, the machine is fired up, and all hell breaks loose. The science boffins at this mysterious facility open a portal to another dimension, known as Zen, and monstrous creatures break through and start killing everybody. To defend yourself, you get one of the most iconic weapons in video games, the crowbar. Just an ordinary crowbar, which apparently Gordon Freeman, the main character, has never seen before, because for some reason he uses it like this. Then you have to bust your way into the next area, and your fight for survival begins. The game mostly consists of puzzles, action, and the horror that is first-person platforming. But don't let that last bit put you off. These three elements are used very well to lead you through a tense, interesting world, fighting dozens of different creatures and enemies, ranging from the gargantua that you must run from like a T-Rex in Jurassic Park, to the very tiny and almost cute head crab. which, to be honest, for the entire game I just kept imagining as Dr. Zoidberg from Futurama. Enemies often feel like a puzzle in themselves, each best being tackled with a different weapon, such as the crowbar for the Dr. Zoidbergs, shotguns for the Vortugants, humanoid-like creatures with green beam powers, and you also get radiation-spitting crocodile things you can tackle in multiple ways. Minor spoiler now, later in the game, you also have to take on your fellow human, as a mysterious squad of humans known as the Hazardous Environment Combat Unit are sent in to clean up the Black Mesa facility, ensuring there are no witnesses and no survivors. Once again, you have to fight these enemies differently than against the Zen monsters, as they are more intelligent at using cover, although only slightly, and have an array of weapons to fight you with. The most deadly humans, however, are the Black Ops Assassins, a female group of fast-moving and leaping ninjas who are incredibly difficult to take down, rarely giving you a chance to shoot them before they leap over you and kill you first. This enemy variety helps the game from kind of going stale, as ultimately the environments are fairly dull, as the game is mostly spent inside the Black Mesa facility, with the occasional excursion outside to fire mortars or take down a chopper. You get to take on this variety of enemies with a large selection of weapons, and unlike most modern shooters, you get to carry all of them at once. None of this pain in the ass picking up only 2 weapons. Gordon Freeman slowly becomes a walking armory through this game. Starting with the crowbar, you soon get a pistol, shotguns, magnums, machine guns, rocket launchers, crossbows, energy beam guns, an alien hornet firing thing, and these cute little things too, that tear enemies apart as you throw them at them. Aww. I find that being able to carry all these weapons at once makes them all so much more relevant than a game where you can only carry 2 or 3 at max. Each weapon gets used, and ammo is scarce enough that you need to use everything in order to survive. The weapons all look nice, but the sound effects is what really caught my attention. Just listen to the sound of reloading your pistol, or firing the MP5. The sound design on this game is awesome. It makes reloading satisfying and each shot feel powerful. These incredible sound effects cross over to the enemies and the environmental sounds as well, helping to give this isolated facility character and really help to make it feel alive. This really helps the game since you spend most of it alone, with the occasional scientist or security guard helping you out. These characters are pretty much the only way in which you take in the story of the game in a conventional way. When you first enter the facility, you do as you're told, picking up your HEV suit and following some other basic instructions. But then you are entirely on your own. No directions, no waypoints, not even so much as an objective. All you know is that you're Gordon Freeman, aliens are pouring into this scientific facility, and you need to escape. As the game goes on, you discover more about the facility, mainly through context clues, such as discovering the facility has been experimenting on the Zen since long before the portal opened at the start of the game, turning the scientists kind of into the villains of the story, and making the player question the actions of the protagonist. As a side note, you can actually kill most of the supporting cast. As long as they aren't vital to progression, feel free to gun them down at any time and carry on with your day. Since there is no point in the game when you aren't in control of your character, the developers allowed you to do what you want when a character is talking to you. Don't get too trigger happy though. Some will offer you clues as to how to progress, warn you of upcoming threats, and lead you to new weapons and stockpiles of ammo. Some brave security guards will even enter the fray with you, and most of them will die, either by the enemies or by them constantly getting in your way. The way the story is told makes it feel more of a gameplay element rather than a traditional story. With no cutscenes, you rarely lose immersion in the game itself, except in the game's many loading screens. Honestly, I have never seen a game have to load for this long, this frequently. It happens all the time, in the middle of action sequences, when you're moving to new areas, and at other random points during the game. It gets really annoying, and never gets any easier as the game goes on. I hear the original is even worse for its loading, which kind of puts me off thinking of going back to play it. I have Half-Life 2 and its episodes to play through next, so I really hope the loading improved, although I feel I may be in for a bit of a shock. Still, although these loading sequences are really frustrating, they cannot take away from how good the gameplay is. The game has slower paced moments of puzzles with a twinge of horror, to high octane action moments with guns blazing, explosions, and enemies everywhere. The gameplay has such good pacing that you rarely feel bored. Even when you get lost of where to go, the world is still interesting enough to keep you hooked. The action is smooth throughout the game, with near perfect control setup for mouse and keyboard, without having to modify your settings, making the firefights, platforming and puzzles enjoyable and exciting to play. The level design rarely leaves you lost, but just enough to make it feel rewarding when you find your way and progress to the next area. Traversing deep into the facility or high up into the cliffs surrounding it, there is always just enough of a clue as to where you need to go next, and working out how to get there is part of the puzzle aspect of the game. This is all topped off with an incredible soundtrack. It doesn't have many songs, but when it does, it fits the scene perfectly, making action sequences intense and fast-paced, and it overall complements the incredible sound effects that are in this game as well. Just check out this scene from later in the game. You've just been in a slow-paced sequence of saving some scientists, but now you have to cross over to another part of the facility to free everyone else. You leave the safety of the bunker, and you're treated to this audio-visual joy. Overall, Black Mesa's individual components are incredible on their own. The action, the puzzles, the story, the music and gameplay are all masterpieces in their own right. Then, when you combine them together, you get one of the best first-person shooters, and quite frankly, one of the best games ever made. Sadly, this remake isn't even finished yet. The game ends as you jump into a portal to enter the Zen dimension. This section was infamous in the original, known to ruin the pace of the game and be more frustrating than fun. The developers at Crowbar Collective have been working for several years on this section to completely redesign it over the original, which can only be a good thing. This has been in development for so long that some fans feel it may never be released. The release date has been mentioned several times, with the most recent being December 2017. The developers say it will release in 2018, and I really hope it does, because if it can live up to the hype that this game puts on this area, it should be a hell of an ending to the game. This has been one of the best shooters. Quite frankly, I think it is the best shooter I have ever played. It just plays so smoothly, and it keeps you hooked to the very last second. In the meantime though, I need to play Half-Life 2, its episodes, and then join the rest of the PC community in crying for the indefinite wait for Gabe Newell and the Valve team to learn the number 3. One day Half-Life 3, Left 4 Dead 3, and Portal 3. One day. Thank you all for watching. My name's Phil, I was the creator of this video. If you enjoyed this video, and, well, even if you didn't, please like, share, and subscribe to the Pixel Tavern. A special shout out to Joel Nielsen, who is the composer for the music in this game, which is absolutely incredible, as you have just heard. Check out his YouTube channel in the description below. And there is more videos on screen now. Until the next video guys, thank you very much for watching.